Well, improving the life of these children is only complicated by the years of conflict that destroyed this nation. Years of mistrust between factions often makes progress very slow, as a group of OSU students learned when they arrived to set up a farm to help feed the orphans. Getting water isn't an easy task for little John. Almost 10 years old and just over 3 feet tall, years of malnutrition have stunted his growth. Abandoned by his parents, little John now lives on an overgrown compound that once served amputee victims from the war.
It's in bed. It just needs to be
But if a group from Oklahoma State University is successful, it may soon help feed the needy.
Well, we were thinking for like irrigation purposes.
Get a 5-gallon bucket and you can run 4 to 6 drip lines off of it.
Got water, food, tractor.
Students from the university came here to get hands-on international development experience, assessing the needs and trying to meet them on the smallest of budgets.
As far as like the PVC pipe goes, need some 1/2-inch pipe, 1.5-inch pipe, and for the hand pump, we're thinking we need to get a 2-inch hose because it's leaking out there.
Which means a trip into the capital of Freetown for supplies. Now, words don't accurately describe the infrastructure challenges you can find here. We were on a routine market trip, and 2 roads, different roads, blocked with trash, have kept us in traffic now for about 2 hours. Once we arrive, the hustle and bustle of the marketplace can be overwhelming. And some of the simplest tasks, quite difficult.
We were allocated $60 per day, which is what...
For food.
Yeah.
Back at the compound and stocked with food basics, students from the Wellington orphanage arrived to help with the week's work.
She wants to be here.
Let's get all those leaves off and we'll start piling up some dirt.
Working alongside the college students, clearing land that has the potential of improving the diets and the lives of everyone back at the orphanage.
So we found a snake yet?
You know what? There was a dead viper on the road on the way to church, but I have not seen a snake yet, and it's snake season.
It's hot, dirty work that is draining under the African sun, even for some Oklahoma farm kids.
You could be on a regular spring break somewhere.
I could be, you know, someplace tropical, nice and humid, pretty similar to this.
Just missing the beach?
Yep, just missing the beach.
With the land cleared and raised beds being built, the lessons can now begin. Teaching the orphans how to propagate young seedlings.
You don't want any plants in it, okay? Because they'll
And learning as well.
eat the seeds that you're trying to plant. So they have this technique where they built palm coverage. They took a couple sticks, put them in the ground, sort of like you would build a hut almost. Set the plants underneath there, and then they watered the top of the palm leaves. It's almost like the drip irrigation that we're going to teach them, and it keeps the plants cooler so that the heat doesn't zap those seeds. And so they just took off with it.
So is the learning going both ways?
Yeah, yeah, it really is, because I would have never thought to cover them like that, and they just got right after it. And we're like, oh yeah, this is how you do it.
And like much of the developing world, clean, drinkable water is always in demand here. Now, during the war, in an orgy of destructions, as the rebels pushed into Freetown, they destroyed nearly all of this country's infrastructure. And the irony here is, for people like little John, there's a water plant less than a mile away from his camp. Burned out buildings and scorched concrete are all that remain. A tied-up goat, the only resident we could find. Fresh water still flows over the spillway into the area.
It works and they are using it.
Yet back at the compound, this single pump is all the fresh water available for those that live here and their many friends from the neighboring village that depend upon it. And its quality is in question.
And I think I did the calculations right for the amount of toxic ammonia.
But after running a simple test, what the OSU students found is that the water we've all been drinking is extremely high in nitrates.
And so we're right at the top then of anything above that would be considered dangerous, not so much for us, but for elderly or people who are having health concerns and babies.
Grow up, they'll start to wrap, they can pull them over. And that'll go
Just the first of a series of obstacles that won't get solved on this trip. Growing food has never been a problem in West Africa, and while the orphans working on this garden will be the direct beneficiaries of the produce, the non-profit organization that owns the facility is wary of partnering with the local university to produce the food, afraid the larger university could someday claim rights to the facility. A hard lesson for students working to establish a farm half the world away.
Experiment station here that's owned by, and the land is owned by 4him, which is a totally different relationship than working for 4him. Follow me? And that's a very difficult, we're having a very difficult time communicating that. We didn't do a good job of communicating that yesterday, and there were some things that were said, particularly by Anjala, that were even harsher, that came across even harsher.
That put the entire project in jeopardy. A bitter pill to swallow for the Oklahoma nonprofit wanting just to help feed the orphans.
These children need to eat, and if they don't eat, they can't learn. And so we need to feed them. And so that's, if we can get them fed, then that money can then be used in a better way that will better their lives, and then they can change the country.
Now, doing such international development work is neither easy nor quick. This trip is a great example for the students involved to learn that even the best of intentions are seldom rewarded. But I am happy to tell you that since our return, the orphans have been able to produce their first crop. And later this year, a larger group of OSU students will return to Sierra Leone and drill some much-needed water wells. Now, if you'd like to hear the students' reactions to this trip, as well as an in-depth discussion I had with the trip's leaders on everything from working in the developing world to the benefits of making such journeys, we have links to each of these on our website. Simply go to okhorizon.com and click on this week's Value Added.